Hi, Doc Gilbert here, Cutman for Professional Combat Sports. Previous videos provided in-depth information and demonstration of my techniques that I've been using for ringside management of cuts, using the commonly approved agents that are adrenaline, thromboplastin, and avatine. Those agents are very commonly approved by the various boxing commissions across this country, Canada, and in Europe. This video will reinforce those techniques that I have found successful in controlling cuts, keeping your fighter active for one more round. For today, I'm going to look at two specific facial locations for cuts. One, which would be on the cheekbone, and the second would be either just above the eye, which could be particularly challenging, or just below the eye. Before we get into that, I do want to give a quick review of the three types of bleeding that you could encounter with a facial injury. The first is capillary bleeding. Capillaries, which are the smallest types of blood vessels, typically bleed with just an ooze, which can easily be controlled with direct pressure. Beyond that, a deeper wound could involve a bleed from a small vein or a small artery, both of which might require more aggressive management. We're going to take a look for a moment at a facial diagram which will show some of the major blood vessels of the face. Within this diagram, the bony structures of the skull, you can see that there are major blood vessels below the eye, above the eye, and in the area of the cheekbone. There are numerous smaller branches that are not illustrated within this picture that pretty much make this a very crowded area for a blood supply. And any direct blow in this region or this region has the potential to create a bleed which could be minor and respond very well to just direct pressure, or might be more serious and require aggressive management with some of the approved agents that we will be discussing. That I'm going to have readily available for use at ringside includes an ice bag, an end swell, which I will leave on ice in between uses, two sandwich bags, one containing ice, and the other which will contain the swabs that I will be using. Those swabs, once they're in the bag, would be soaked with whichever agent I was using at that time, either adrenaline or thromboplastin. Once they are soaked, this bag will be inserted into the bag that has the ice with it, being sure that the ice is not coming into direct contact with the medications, and that goes in my pocket for use if there's a need because of a bleed. Then we have 4x4 gauze, Vaseline, which would also be kept on ice. The reason the end swell and the Vaseline are kept on ice and to keep them cold is that when applying to the skin, the cold temperature will serve to help constrict any blood vessel that might be bleeding at that point in time. Other products that we're going to have available here, avatine. Once you open the avatine package, there is a small, little bit like a sponge that contains the chemical, adrenaline, or thromboplastin. The bell has rung, the round is ended, your fighter returns to the corner, and it's obvious that he has a cut to the cheekbone. Keeping in mind that people with prominent cheekbones are more susceptible and vulnerable to cuts of this nature. The way I approach it is when I come to the fighter, I immediately get some cooling into place, ice pack to the back. I have my adrenaline soaked swab, or it could be thromboplastin. I'm going to place it right into the cut, put my end swill right over that. While that's working, I'm going to take some Vaseline everything. Put a plug of cold Vaseline right into the wound, and he's good to go for one more round. The bell rings, the round is over, the fighter returns to the corner, and it's obvious that the cut he sustained in the previous round is now rebleeding. The initial management of that is the same. We apply ice, back of the neck, start off cooling process. We take our swab that's already pre-soaked with either adrenaline or the thromboplastin, apply it right into the wound, followed by application of the ice cold end swell. While that's going on, two things are going to happen. One, take the Vaseline and apply it around the face and the ears, or move the ice pack across the chest. And the other thing that's going on simultaneously is you need to monitor out of the corner of your eye the movement of the ring card as it progresses through the ring. When that person covers half the distance of the ring, you know that half of your time to work on your fighter is over. So at that moment, remove the end swell, remove the swab, take your Avitine sponge, apply it directly into the wound with direct pressure, and hold that firmly in place until the whistle blows, indicating that basically your time is up. Remove the Avitine, place a plug of ice cold Vaseline right into the wound, retrieve your ice bag, and your fighter should be good for one more round. When the fighter returns to the corner after the next round, you're going to reassess the cut. There's two possible outcomes. Either there is no active bleeding, or there is active bleeding. If there's no active bleeding, I would still apply the swab with the end swell as demonstrated before. If there is active bleeding, I would follow the two-step process involving the swab for half the time that you have available, and then repeat the application of the Avitine for the second half of the available time, and follow that with an application of cold Vaseline. Let's move now from having controlled the cut on the cheek area to a cut in that much more challenging region just above the eye, just below the eye, the eyebrow, or the eyelid.